Hi, everybody. Scotty Reese here. I want to share a really special conversation that I had with you. I just sat down with these four incredible women who are the faces and the voices and the brains behind the Indy 500 race that you will see play out on television this weekend live from Indianapolis. It is a legendary race with over 100-year history in motorsports, but also in automotive and also in what we know and learn about our cars. It is a crown jewel, one of the women said, a crown jewel of automotive racing. And these women bring their heart, they bring their spirit, they bring their passion, they put their lives on hold to a certain degree to be able to cover Indy 500. So I want to share this conversation with you. My sit down with Giselle Zarur, Jamie Little, Pam Miller, and for a quick moment, Georgia Henneberry, who you will see all of them on camera. Pam is the executive producer at this weekend's Indy 500. So here we go. Hi, ladies. Thank you for joining us today from Indy 500. You guys are trackside and about to go out and make another record-setting year in motorsports. Please welcome Giselle and Jamie from Fox Sports. Welcome, ladies.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
So my first question to you is, how the heck did you get into this business? Tell us how you got started and what you do now. Giselle, why don't you start?
It started 15 years ago. I am Mexican, born and raised there. I moved to LA like 6 years ago, but all the story began back in Mexico when I was already studying communication, and I was very passionate about sports. I love everything about sports, and I was like, I love watching them on TV and attending to different sports. So as I was studying communication, I was like, okay, I need to find something where I can share all this passion and also like do what I dream, that is to be on TV or be in media. So in sports, I found like the perfect match because I can be there on site, and talk about this passion and all the stories behind the athlete. And I think that is one of the things that I like the most, to all these stories behind the athletes. So yeah, I starting literally like knocking doors and looking for opportunities. That's where it started. I was still like studying and started working and doing first reporting, like some, let's say like small categories, if we can call it that way, and began like to step up in the ladder till now. Yeah, so mainly covering motorsports. I've been covering Formula One like from back in 2011, but other sports too, like soccer, NFL, of course NASCAR, IndyCar, but a little bit of everything, but mainly motorsports.
And so what brought you to Fox? How did you get to Fox?
Yeah, so when I moved to LA in 2019, I was looking for an opportunity to continue with my career in the States. So I came to Fox Deportes, and they told me like, yeah, welcome. My expertise in Mexico and working with different, because I also work with an international channel that it was a 24-hour channel for doing Formula One for all Latin America. So that helped me open me different doors, and that's why I started in Fox, and it's been a wonderful journey. I was able to share with Jamie in Daytona 500, being the first Latin woman to report from the Daytona 500, learn a lot about Jamie. I was always watching her, to learn how to get all the insights. And yeah, now I'm here for my first Indy 500. I've been here before as a fan and loved all the show and the passion and the history about the event, but it will be my first time covering the event. So happy, excited.
So Jamie, tell us, how did you get started? Tell us about your background and how you came to reporting on motorsports for Fox.
You don't have enough time in the show for me to tell my story. I'll make it short. But this is my 25th year basically covering motorsports. And like Giselle said, it started from just the passion, like this feeling that I got when I watched racing. And mine has always been just racing. Stick and ball sports has never been my thing. And that's just, it's kind of a product of where I grew up in South Lake Tahoe, California, raised by a single mom, only child, no brothers that played sports or anything. We didn't have any sports to root for at the time. And it's funny, like I was a tomboy and I had friends that had like four-wheelers in Tahoe, and that feeling of riding on them and the smell of the gasoline, that kind of stayed with me. And then I was in high school, didn't want to go to college. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And I was hanging out and friends with this group of guys who raced Supercross. And I just thought it was the coolest sport ever, motocross, Supercross. And I would watch it on TV, and I brought my Dirt Rider magazines to school. And I just thought, well, if they can be on TV talking about it, I can do it. And I realized there were no women talking about the sport. And I'm like, I want to tell the stories of these guys and what they're sacrificing, their bodies, their families, their schooling. I want to tell those stories. So I just didn't give up on it. And I went up to somebody with an ESPN microphone in California. I was at a race and I said, I want to do this. How do I do it? And he said, well, I'm a local freelancer for this show on ESPN at the time. It was all motorsports. You can help. I literally did that for 2 years. Like my hand would be in the shot on TV. I'm like, look, Mom, that's me asking the question. And they would throw me some bones. Like my first show on ESPN2 was rock crawling. Like it was just little things. But my first TV experience and the only TV experience I've ever had is national. So I was very lucky. I think I was at the right place at the right time where people were ready maybe for a female face and voice of racing that was always so male dominated. So it went from there. I was a live broadcaster in all the stadiums. So I started going to college because I got smart, realized, okay, I'm on to something. I need to get a journalism degree. So I would go to school during the week, fly to the racetrack, wherever it was, whatever stadium in the country. I got paid $500 to be a live announcer. And by that way, ESPN knew who I was. They gave me a shot. I was with them for 14 years. And of course, from there, Supercross, X Games, they said, do you know anything about auto racing? And I'm like, not really, but it's racing mentality. I'll figure it out. 3 weeks later, I was at an IndyCar test. And then in 2004, I did my first IndyCar race and did my first Indy 500, which I became the first woman to ever cover that broadcast. I was on pit road. It was me and literally a line of, I think, 8 men that had been doing it forever. And I just felt like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I don't fit in. Like, am I okay here? And it was one of those moments that it's like, if I can get through this first race, I've made it. And the rest is history, literally. And then of course, after that, I'm like, well, I want to do NASCAR too. And ESPN got the contract back in 2007. So I did both NASCAR, IndyCar for many years. And it's been 10 years now. And Fox has the IndyCar series and the Indy 500. So I'm back.
Wow. I'm going to say, talking about being the only woman on pit road with guys who've been doing it forever, like you just gave me chills.
Yeah.
To be the first woman in the room takes a lot. So tell me, how did you do that? What was your internal conversation with yourself? And where else did you find encouragement to say, yes, you can do this? Because that's daunting.
It really came from my mom. She was the type that was like, say yes, figure it out later. And it was survival. It was me and my mom in a small, tiny house. It's that typical story, right? But I was a survival-minded person and nothing held me back. I've been very hard-headed, very stern. I go after what I believe in. And I've been like that since I was a child. So coming into racing, I don't think I ever had a problem with it. Like I never remember the pushback. Yes, there were those moments, but not really. I mean, you just have to have a thick skin. And to me, I always felt like if I outwork the next person and prove myself and I'm accurate and I can become somebody's favorite reporter, not woman reporter, then I've made it. And I I feel like that is why I'm still here, is because I'm willing to outwork the next person and bring the story, bring the personalities, and let my true passion show through. And I could have gone to football. I was offered to go to football, and I stayed in my lane because I love racing. And I think that's why race fans, my bosses, they know how much racing means to me, and it comes across.
So Giselle, talk about your experience being a woman in a male-dominated area. You haven't been doing this as long as Jamie, so maybe there have been more women. But it still is. I go to a lot of events where, you know, maybe a quarter or 30 or 40% of the attendees are, you know, automotive events, or there's a lot of women, but it still feels very testosterone driven. Tell me, how do you prep yourself for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Now that I was listening to Jamie, I remember when back when I started, and yeah, it was weird, you know, because for me it was just like wanting to accomplish my dreams, you know, to follow my dreams. There were some, yeah, like obstacles in terms of comments and decisions that in that moment for me was like, why they are like, don't let me to do this? Is because I'm a woman, or it's because I'm not capable of? And I show them and prove them that I was capable to do it, even though I'm a woman. So I think at the beginning, those were like the most difficult, like that was the most difficult part, no, to prove myself twice, you know, to make them understand that it's not about gender, it's about passion, and it's about knowledge, and it's about discipline, and it's about everything that any reporter needs to be on track. So that was the main or the first thing for me, no, to break those barriers, to prove them wrong. I also remember when, for example, as I told you, I started in Formula One, and we were a minority, and we still are. But a good thing is that every year I see more female faces in different areas. It's not only reporters, but I see engineers, mechanics, team principals. You know, the women number is increasing every time. That makes me really, really proud. But sadly, there's still this idea that we need to prove more, or we're not capable to do certain things. So I think that's the main thing here, you know, like we have to sometimes to prove twice, or to work twice harder to be on the spot. But at the end, it's on us. And if we keep working, if we keep like in our, like pushing towards our dream, at the end we will get it.
I hear all the time, I hear women say, if you walk into a room, an automotive, whatever it is, executives, leaders, people, and there's a woman in that room, she is the best person in that room because she worked twice as hard as anybody else to get there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And look at the room magnifying glass. I always tell people, if you take two people, which I've gone through it many times, where like my first NASCAR race, you put me with three men, we're all there, we're all new. They are going to look at me through a magnifying glass, meaning they're going to listen to every single word I say and pick me apart. They're going to pick my look apart and the way that I do things, the way I talk, whereas the man is just a given. Meanwhile, I've probably raced and they've never even sat in a race car. I've won races. You know, there's that idea that's still there. And I know it firsthand because I do play-by-play now. And this year I'm doing full-time play-by-play for the NASCAR Truck Series. There are no other women that cover a motorsport event on national TV. So I'm carrying that torch. You know, it's just, that's what I want. I didn't sign up for it, but I know it's a responsibility and people are watching me. But I'll see like so many nice comments. And then you get this one stupid comment. I saw one the other day. She's a DEI hire. I'm like, well, I guess 25 years of busting your ass and covering sports. DEI hire. I don't think you know what it means, you know, or get back to the kitchen or, you know, stupid things. The men just don't have to hear it.
Jealousy.
People can be really, really mean.
It,
Really
it
mean.
is. It
And
is
they
mean.
don't see like all the background and all the effort that you put to be there, to even to do like an interview, like the relation that you get to have with, for example, the drivers is different, and your approach is different, and the trust that they gave to you because of all these years that you've been working with them. And suddenly out of nowhere comes a comment, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
You've never been here before, like you've never done this. So don't criticize just because I'm a woman. So yeah, it's
I hate to give those people oxygen because they are meaningless. They're showing the world how small they are. And, by me, and that's the reason they do it anonymously too. If they had any courage at all, they would put their name on those comments, and they don't. But let's talk about the other side of that coin. Who encouraged you? Jimmy, you talked about your mom, but other leaders, producers, bosses, racers, who said to you, and what did they say that helped you to build yourself to where you are?
Well, I would say, I always tell people that you can't show what you're capable of unless somebody gives you a chance. And I think a perfect example of it, there wouldn't be a Danica Patrick if there wasn't Bobby Rahal, who gave her a chance in a great car, great equipment, and put her in the Indy 500. It just wouldn't happen. There's a lot of that out there. And for me, my boss at ESPN back in the day, I found out who that boss was, who made the decisions for talent. And I cold called him one day once I finally tracked down his number. My mom stood outside the door and she listened to the conversation. And I basically said, give me a shot and I won't let you down, but just give me one shot. And he's like, all right, fine. I'll give you a shot. Like, there's no contract. Just go out and do it. And needless to say, he was my boss for 14 years. He took me to IndyCar. He took me to NASCAR because he believed in me. And now he works for Indianapolis Motor Speedway for their production company. And we see each other, and it's like, I always talk about him giving me a chance. He always talks about what I did for him and our relationship together. Like, he believed in me and he made me better because he was also hard on me, almost like a father figure. If he didn't like a question or the way I put my face in the camera after asking a question, he would call me out. He was tough. And I think that's what it took to make me stronger and to make me better.
Wow. Wow. Giselle, who inspired and encouraged you?
First of all, my family. At the beginning, it was like, really, Giselle, you want to go to like sport journalism? And I'm like, yeah. And the question was obvious, like, but that is like a male thing, no? And I'm like, no. I'm sure that I can do it. And I remember when I started, like, many of my colleagues were like saying like, oh, this girl won't last. She only want to party and she won't be here long. And I was like, I'm going to prove them wrong. So I think that was one of like my inspiration, to prove them wrong was one important thing. Also, as Jamie mentioned, if you have one person that can give you a chance and give you an opportunity, that changes completely like the story of your career. And yeah, that happened to me. I'm like to cover my first Formula One race, and from then on, like it was funny because there was two guys covering Formula One and myself, and they were like alternating us. No, okay, so Giselle is gonna do this race, and the other guys, the other ones. And one day was like, okay, Giselle is the only one that will do like whole calendar, like full season, because my interviews were like different. The effort behind every interview, every broadcast was different. So I think that like made me like turn around the things and fulfill my dream, and take the best thing about that opportunity. And I also think that other women in journalism, like meeting other girls and knowing their story and see the effort behind, I think that has inspired me a lot in that. And not only reporters, but also athletes, when you know the stories behind every athlete, and you can compare your story with them. Maybe it's not the same because I don't train 7 days a week. But in terms of the things that you need to do to be there, the things that you need to know, or all the effort that is behind the camera, I think, yeah, all these stories, the athlete stories, has inspired me a lot to be here.
Well, and you touch on a really important point. Knowing the stories or just hearing the words from another woman who's done the difficult thing and taken that first important step and done something that's hard to do, and who's the first or an early person there in the room, and she'll tell you. I mean, that's why we're here talking about this, because she will tell you. The men will too, by the way. But sometimes it's a little more intimidating to ask them. And sometimes their stories, like how they came to something, isn't easily repeatable. Whereas a woman, if a woman did something, she'll tell you the real inside deal and what was hard to do. And she'll help you. Just her words alone will help you, which is why we do this podcast. So I'm going to welcome two more women from the pit road at Indy 500, Georgia Henneberry and Pam Miller. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you very much.
Hi.
Thank you. Thanks for being here. So as we got started, Giselle and Jamie gave us a little backstory on what they do and how they came to this job. And we would love to hear that from both of you. Georgia, why don't you start? Tell us what you do and how you came into the job that you're doing now.
I am pit lane for IndyCar on Fox and Fox Sports. I was able to join the team at Barber Motorsports Park, the third race of the season, and I will be with them the rest of the year. So far, it's been a dream come true, and very grateful for the opportunity. Before that, previously, I was on pit lane with IndyCar last year for broadcast, and then before that, I did all of the big screens hosting around the track for IndyCar the 2 years previous to that. So a lot of fan interaction and interviews and whatnot, but definitely more geared towards the fans at the racetrack and not the ones at home. Before that, I worked for the United States Auto Club, and I did 5 years with them, touring with their sprint cars, midgets, and silver crown cars around the country, which was awesome. And then before that, I raced myself, and that's when I didn't even do interviews before that. I started out wanting to be a driver, and I wanted to end up in IndyCar or NASCAR. I just knew I wanted to be a professional race car driver. But as we know, racing takes a lot of money, and that is something that my family just was not able to do. So when that transition happened, I got the opportunity with USAC, and they asked me to come do social media for them. And it didn't even start out as interviews. It started out as Facebook Lives for the fans at home when we were at dirt tracks around the country, just letting them know where we were at, what's going on, the whole 9 yards. And then that transitioned into, hey, do you think you could do an interview with the person who went quick time? And I was like, no, I don't think that I can. That is so scary. I cannot do that. But sure enough, started doing that, and was going into college at that time, and I really wanted something that I could latch on to, and I enjoyed it once I started doing it. So it went from driving to social media to small interviews here and there to, man, I really like this, and I want to make a career out of it, to snowball into where we are today. And very grateful and happy with the opportunity for it.
Awesome. And Pam, let me just set this up. First of all, Pam, I started to go through your bio and your resume, and I don't have all week because your accomplishments are incredible, and you've been doing this for quite some time. So tell us, how did you get into motorsports and sports communications, and then tell us what you do here.
Well, motorsports was a fluke, but sports I always loved. So just by coincidence, when I was working at ESPN, I was working mostly hockey, NHL, and by coincidence, they lost that contract. And the gentleman I was working for, Terry Lingner, asked me if I would consider working on auto racing. And here I've been ever since. I love it. I've produced pretty much every type of motorsport or developed different types of motorsport series for various networks. And I've been with Fox for the last 26 years as a coordinating producer. And lead producer and now lead producer, coordinating producer for IndyCar.
Wow. Wow. Well, I mean, your resume is just incredible. Your bio is incredible. But when you started, so you started at ESPN, there were not a lot of women there. There weren't women reporting on sidelines of any sport, really. What drew you to this very male-dominated world of sports coverage?
I grew up loving sports. I grew up in the Northeast. And you're right, when I was at ESPN, there were very few women. In fact, that was one of the reasons Terry suggested I try motorsports, because he knew that I really wanted to produce events, live events, and he thought there might be a lane there to get an opportunity, which there ended up being one in Formula One a couple of years later, or about a year later, actually. And so, I always was confident about my ability to understand the different sports, because it was mostly stick and ball sports at that point. And then I went to Ithaca College, where they really encouraged you to be involved and hands-on. And I was producing games by my sophomore year, football, hockey, baseball, you name it, out of a truck with a crew, and did that for, freelance for different networks. And I just kept going. So, from there, I just kind of found my way and learned a lot, absorbed a lot of advice, and was really grateful for a lot of the mentors I had along the way.
So let's talk about that. We talked about that a little bit with Jamie and Giselle about mentors and advice that you've gotten over the years. Tell us some of those moments that were most meaningful to you, whether it was something someone told you or a mentor who really helped you to get where you wanted to go.
My first job was actually before ESPN in New York City on a startup show for Sports Channel New York, and the lead producer and executive in charge of the show was a woman. I was really lucky. One of the few women in New York at the time working. She had come from ABC. And so her and I really formed a bond because we were the two women producers on the show. And I learned a lot. She gave me a lot of freedom. She gave me a lot of opportunities to learn, even when I stumbled, which was great. And she had a lot of great support and advice. And so when I ended up going to ESPN a little bit later, a lot of those guys were great mentors. A lot of them were alums from Ithaca College. And so I kind of got to know them. I was very fortunate that there were a lot of patient people, a lot of people that let me kind of try things. I wasn't afraid to try things. I think that was what the woman's name was Alexis. She kind of taught me, don't be afraid. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to learn from the mistakes, and just keep trying. And that's what I kept doing.
So let me throw this question to the group. Because being mentored and having people help us is really important. What's your approach to helping other women, especially younger women, who see what you do and they say, "Oh, I want to do that," or younger men, younger people who are impressed with what you do and want to do it? Jamie, why don't you start?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest compliment, right? I mean, when you've been doing this for as long as I personally have, you start looking at your legacy. What is that? Is it just I was here to get a paycheck and selfishly because I loved what I did so much? Or am I leaving something for the next generation? And I really enjoy helping teach and help grow that next generation of whether they're writers or they're in broadcast, male, female. When I hear from them and I hear the questions they have, I love giving that feedback because we've been through a lot. All of us here, when you're the first to do something, you go through things that next generation probably isn't ready for, or maybe doesn't even have to go through like we did. I always tell people my advice is outwork the next person. That's kind of my theme here is outwork the next person and treat everybody the same. Like it comes full circle in this sport, especially in motorsports. You never know when you're going to be working with somebody again. And, put your all into it. You're going to have to sacrifice a lot for this job. There's no way around it. You're going to work your butt off. If you want to make it, you've got to sacrifice a lot. But there are ways you can prove that you can have it all. We can have families. We can have babies if that's what you want. But it's a lot of work and you can't be scared to do it. And by the way, find something that really motivates you. Is it auto racing? Is it football? Is it basketball? Find what you love, because once you get there and you work hard for it, you won't feel like it's a job, and it's something you get excited about getting up in the morning. And I can still say that after all these years, I am excited to wake up and talk about racing.
Giselle.
Yeah, totally agree with Jamie. Everything that she said is true. It's very important to, Jamie said, like, okay, treat everybody well. Yeah, like, you never know who's gonna give you like the information if you're a reporter. No, the information can come from anywhere, and who can give you an opportunity. So it's very important to keep connected with everyone in a good way, for people to know who you are, but in a good way, because they know that you work hard, that you are always there when they need you, in case they need you, and you're always there to get the best of whatever you're doing. That's important. And another thing is that never stop, because some girls come to me, or boys, like, oh, but I already asked for a chance and they didn't want me, so I think I'm gonna go to work in another thing. And he's like, no, it's not easy as just like, okay, hi, I want to work here, and they will say like, oh yeah, come on, welcome, you're gonna lead or be I don't know, like the play-by-play commentary in your first race. No, you have you have to work for it, and sometimes you have to knock a lot of doors, and they will say like, no, there's no chance now, but you have to continue looking for opportunities, and one day it will come. And a great thing about nowadays is that we have internet, social media, so you can start working and you can start creating your own channel, your own platform, where you can like spread to the world whatever you want to do. And that's a very good thing nowadays. When I started, the social media maybe were starting, but it was not as strong as now. So everything was like being on site and writing all your pieces to be broadcasted on TV. So it was totally different. There was no this big window as you have now on the social media. So all these tools that we have now, like, use it in your favor for you to open those doors. There's a lot of women, talking specific about women, but there's a lot of reporters that have started their careers by showing themselves in social media. So use the social media in a good way, and maybe magic can happen.
That's great advice. That's such great advice. I do think we live in a world of like, you're able to start your own thing, and the gig economy, somebody will give you a chance or give you a short, a little assignment or that kind of thing. I think that's great advice. Pam, what advice do you have for people who are looking for that, that next step in their career, or breaking into covering motorsports or the motorsports business?
Well, I always tell people, don't be so hard on yourself. Learn. There's more than one way to get there. You have to take every lesson as they come, but try everything. You should, especially in live event production, you should be able to learn every job on your way up. Know what everybody's doing. Stay connected with the crew. Stay connected with how everybody is learning, developing, that sort of thing. But there's more than one way to get there. And don't lose sight of the little things that you should enjoy along the way. I was going to say it's very difficult in a truck, and I don't mince words about that. I just, you have to Jamie's point, you have to be willing to sacrifice some things. You're not going to go to your best friend's wedding sometimes. Like, I hate to say it. Like, it just, sometimes it happens. It happened to me. It's just, there's things that my family used to have a cardboard cutout of me and just bring it to events, because except for Christmas, I was just never available. It's just part of what you have to do to learn. And don't get frustrated. You might have to take a swerve here and there to get where you want to go, but it is the truck that, as Jamie knows and Giselle, that the road life is not easy. To Jamie's point about juggling, there are choices to be made, but it can be done. But it's a, if you can learn and work your way up, there's nothing more fulfilling than doing a live television event.
So I'm going to switch gears. Ha ha ha. I want you to tell us, Jamie, start with you. What is it about Indy that just like makes your heart beat faster, that you just love? What's the feel? What is it that you get that feeling of home when you get there, when you get to the track, when, you know, is it when things start to happen, things start to unfold, people start to show up, you start to hear the engines? What is it?
It's everything. And it starts before race day, just going to Indianapolis Motor Speedway, even without anybody there. If you're just going because you have a meeting or you're doing an interview with somebody in the pagoda, it's special. Like I tell people, and it sounds funny, but there's a spiritual aspect of this racetrack. The history of it, it talks to you, the lives that have been lost there, the lives that have been made there, the generations that have been going to races there that still show up, that may not watch another race all year, but they show up because they have been watching since they came out of the womb, because that's what their grandparents and great grandparents did. It's unlike any other sporting event, in my opinion. The history itself, then you get the danger factor. You get, I mean, these guys are gladiators. What they are willing to do and put it all on the line to win the Indianapolis 500 is unlike anything you'll see. I mean, we have drivers out there that they're racing one time this year and they're going for everything and they're willing to put it all on the line to put their face on that Borg Warner trophy. It's just special. And the smell of those cars, the sound of the people are on top of you. This racetrack is old. It was built with people on top of the racetrack, and you feel it, you hear it, the celebration, the pomp and circumstance, the cannon that goes off first thing in the morning, the marching bands, the celebrities. I can go on and on. The milk. I mean, it's just all amazing. And to be part of it is unlike anything else.
When you said the people, okay, second time today, you've given me chills. The people, that I think is incredible. Without people in the stands, the fans, none of this is possible. And that's amazing. Giselle, what is it about a race or Indy specifically that, and this is your first time behind the mic for Indy. So what is it that thrills you?
I totally agree. When you're driving around the speedway, it's like, oh my God, am I really here? You know, like, because you see these like gigantic grandstands, and you can imagine like 350,000 people like cheering at the same time. Is incredible. And as I told you, I came as a fan and I was part of those fans, and I was like, the energy is totally different, you know, like it gives you chills, goosebumps, lap by lap, and all the ceremony before it starts. You know, one of my colleagues once told me, like, every time you go to a racetrack, a stadium, wherever you go, like, you have to respect the racetrack or the stadium, or, you know, because every building, let's call it that way, has a specific story, a specific energy. And I think that there are some places in Earth that has like more, it's not that more value, but more significance to the world than others. And this place has everything, you know, story, tradition. I'm looking like where I'm now, I literally in front of the brickyard, and I see fans and people like just come to kiss the brickyard, you know, like it's a thing. Everything is a thing here.
Yeah.
As you mentioned, as Jamie mentioned, the milk, the speed, the drivers wanted, like, you know, how incredible it is that there are drivers that are committed to race here, and there are others that are afraid to race here, you know. So it's 50 and 50%, because it's magical, it's special. you need to be really brave to be here. So yeah, I will say it's magical. This place is pure magic.
So Pam, tell us what it feels like for you when you get back to that track or to motorsport race. What is it that makes you happiest?
As anybody who knows me, I'm passionate about every single racetrack and every single event that I do. But to what Jamie and Giselle just said, I mean, this place is special. It's a privilege and an honor to be, assigned to continue the legacies that are here, to be a documentarian of the history that will happen here this weekend, to carry on the tradition. It's something that's really hard to put into words because having seen it years ago and kind of grew up through a 5 or 6 Mays here and how it's changed, it's a pretty much a pinch me moment, I think, for all of us. But I do think the pressure of making sure that it's such a crown jewel that it's taken care of in the right way and the story is presented in the right way. You have to react to the race. But that being said, everything about this place is special, and you just want to make sure that you are a good group of people that carry on the legacy of what's gone on here for 109 years or plus 109 years. So that's kind of what I feel, excitement, but a real respect for what happens here. And but I do agree, you feel the ghosts the second you come in here. You hear the echoes. It's amazing to me this place has only had 4 ownerships, 4 owner groups. It's a pretty special piece of history, and it's such an important landmark to the world that you just want to do it, do it do the show with the respect it deserves. So.
Yeah, and for Pam, everything she has done in her career, from Formula One to NASCAR to everything, for her to be the top dog, she is our top boss. She is producing this whole race as a woman. It's so impressive, and I'm proud of her because, as you hear, it means so much to her, but she's going to do it right. She understands the tradition of this place, and she's going to make sure all of us are in order and doing our jobs to make sure we embrace all of that.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I can't wait to watch. I'm really excited to watch on race day. One last question for everyone, because we work so hard, you work so hard, you bring so much of yourself to not only your teams and your audiences and to the passion that you have for what you do. What do you want people in your life, your children, your spouse, your siblings, your parents, nieces and nephews, what do you want those people who you love to take away? What do you want them to learn from what you do? Jamie, why don't you start?
Well, I want my kids, and I come home to them all the time. They know Mom leaves usually Thursday through Sunday, and I'll always come home, but it's never easy when I leave. And I want them to understand, and they are, that I work hard to provide a great life, but I also love what I do. So when I walk out that door, I am a happy person, and I am a happy person when I get home. And, I always loved racing and my job before, but once I had children, I realized my purpose, and it made me better at my job, and it makes me a better mom because I'm balanced. It's not for everyone, but I just want my kids, when they grow up and they know and remember Mom was gone a lot for work, but they know that I did my best and I did something I love, and hopefully they follow in that path as well and find something they truly love.
Giselle?
Yeah, absolutely. Everything changes when you become a mom, but because now I work and I just think like I want my daughter to be proud of what I've achieved, and for her to see whatever she wants to do in life, but to see, like, okay, so if my mom was possible to do this, I am possible or capable to do this too, So for me, that's the most important thing. And yeah, and as Jamie mentioned, we're here because we love what we do. There's a lot of sacrifices. You leave your kids, you're not in every moment, even though when you're there, of course, is quality, but you miss some weekends and you're away in some moments, it may sound like a little bit selfish, but it's important for us to also be happy, and if being here make us happy and make our heart feel full, this is a place where we need to be, because if we are happy here, we can bring happiness also to our homes and to our family and to our friends, and it's just to try to get that balance. It's not easy, but if you love what you do, it's easier. That's why if you really, really love sports and you really, really love to be in wherever area that you like to be as a reporter, a producer, director, whatever, if you really like it and you really love it, it will be easier to let's say, to fill the other boxes, like not to feel that bad if you leave, because of course there's a big guilt included in this, all this. But yeah, it is like, like I might want to be home with my daughter, but I also want to be here and be part of this and to keep writing history for me and for women and for my daughter to see one day.
And Pam, what do you want your loved ones to take away from your career?
I hope that they know that my passion and my love of storytelling has impacted a lot of people and the people that I've mentored. I really like taking the lessons that I've learned in this job, whether it's being on the road or managing a group of people or telling a story, to continue that messaging and influence, the next generation of producers and directors and talent. And I hope that they see that, in somewhat small way, and maybe I've affected one person along the way. And if that's the case, then I hope that they're just proud.
Well, thank you all for the gifts that you give us and for your strong words and inspiration. And I can't wait to see it all come out through the screen on race day. Giselle Zarur, Jamie Little, and Pam Miller. We lost Georgia. She had to run to another interview. She got pulled away from us, but can't wait to see you all on race day. Thanks for joining us for What Drives Her.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks for telling our story.
Okay, so Pam is incredible and inspiring. What a career she's had. Giselle is finding this new space, which is amazing. It's amazing to watch her follow her passion and build a new space, the first Latina in many of these spaces. Georgia, we need to talk to her more. She is young and she's going to have a great career ahead of her. But I have to say, Jamie gave me chills. Like, I'm still like have goosebumps from some of the things that Jamie said. Moms and women with, personal lives, that they are able to walk between the obligations and the things we need to do in our personal lives and the expectations people have for us, and the thing that they are so passionate about and want to do, and be able to do all of it. It's a juggle and you have to find balance, but you can do it. And that's what came through when they talked about this. And then Pam's cardboard cutout. That was crazy. But I totally get it. And I think what that shows us is her family loves her and they respect what she does, and they make space for her even when she can't be there, which is really pretty touching. All right, thanks for joining us for What Drives Her, a production of A Girl's Guide to Cars. I'm Scotty Reese, your host, produced by Natalie Marola, edited by Steph Howard, music by Envato Elements. Please subscribe to our podcast, subscribe to our newsletter for news in your inbox every week. You can find all of our content and our podcasts over at A Girl's Guide to Cars. Thanks for being here, and we'll see you next time.